It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Tuesday, October 15th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is wondering how the Flyers can improve defensively to get ready for this Oilers team.
I know how.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. We are at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter as well. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. You can find us over on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, before the Flyers face the Oilers tonight, the Columbus Blue Jackets have their first home game of the season, which I'm sure will be very emotional for them. And Guy Gaudreau, who has spent time at Flyers practice, did the same in Columbus out there prior to this first home game. Good to see that he's there and is going to be at least welcome as part of this home opener for Columbus at practice as well.
Yeah, it's nice to see. I saw the players are wearing a donkey hat. That has to do with Johnny Gaudreau, calling everybody a donkey, I believe. So Sean Monahan got the first one. That's nice.
Yeah, for their internal player of the game.
For an internal player of the game, they always
Yeah.
have something silly, and so that's theirs.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, this is all as therapeutic as it gets. I saw Sean Monahan had there was a picture of him holding up Johnny's son. So yeah, I mean, this is how it's going to be, and he was a big part of the fabric of hockey.
It's good to see that Columbus is kind of doing similar things. Moving over to the Flyers, Nick Seeler is back skating, not at practice yet, but I think that it's a good sign that he's getting back out there.
Yeah, he's getting close for sure. Seems like they're not utilizing players though for defense, but yeah, that's the way
Well,
the
that's what
Flyers
we're
do it.
gonna talk about here, right? It does seem based on practice that Jet Luchenko will be back in the lineup for this game. I'm not sure 100% about Noah Cates because Farabee wasn't at practice. Likely a maintenance day, but it's kind of TBD on what's going on with the lineup on that front. But I think that it does also seem like they're putting Mitchkov back with Frost and Tippett for now. And I don't know if that's more to get Tippett going or to get Mitchkov on the board. Like it could go either way here.
I think it's to get Tippett going, but I like to see Mitchkov in his natural position. I think that's a smarter way to go about it.
Yeah, I think the other interesting part is that Emil Andre, it appears, is going to still be out of the lineup for this one. Again, just based on defensive pairings from practice, things could be different if Tortorella says something different. But I certainly hope that he does get in to at least one of these road trip games.
I mean, at this point, they have Eric Johnson on the second pairing. Like it's just come on, what are they doing here? Defense isn't strong enough, and the power play is not good enough. So you want to strengthen one, you might weaken the other. You might be able to just strengthen both because at least Andre can skate the puck out if you allow it. And I don't think he's a bad defenseman at all. And then he definitely could help the second power play because Zamula's been dreadful on it.
Yeah, we love Zamula, by the way.
Yeah.
Power play is just not the best
Not his
spot for
thing,
him.
and they're forcing him to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the issue there. Just wanna make that clear. So
Yeah.
it's not like ragging on him. It's just not his strongest suit out on the ice. But I wanted to talk about that. Mentioned earlier that we do want to figure out how to get this team better defensively. And on yesterday's show, Russ, you mentioned that the defense was playing loose.
Mhm.
And I just want to like dig into that a little bit more because really that could mean anything if you don't know exactly what you're talking about. So when you say loose, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, they're backed off, and they're all sort of like not playing an umbrella, but they're sort of backed off in the zone, and they're letting the other team gain the zone, and they're letting them have 3 or 4, inches, feet, more like feet, I guess, at least 3 or 4 strides into the offensive zone before they're on them. And so, like, you can see a lot of things were happening with that. They have no problem taking long shots and sometimes scoring high on that. So they're just allowing that. What they're trying to do is get on them low, block whatever they can, and then try and stymie them from that way from getting to the net. But I'll tell you, with a team like Edmonton, what they're going to do is they're going to get the pucks in the corners. They're going to go wide, and that forces you to either cover or not. And you don't want Connor McDavid moving in on the net without you being on him, or they'll go behind the net, and then you have to make a decision. Are you going to go back there and get the puck, or you're just going to let him do it? So I think it's a dangerous way to play. And I understand Nick Seeler means a lot to the defense, but the structure doesn't have to change that much.
Right. So I think, irrespective of what team they're playing, like in a vacuum, I think there are risks to that style of play. And I think that the Flyers defense has worked better when they're a little bit more aggressive, in terms of clogging up the neutral zone. And
Hmm.
I think that, for the Flyers right now, it seems like they're just doing that to the end result, that you said of just forcing them to the outside and then allowing them to get set up. But I think they could be doing a little bit more actively to try and prevent them gaining the zone in the first place or creating the board battle at the blue line instead of deep in your own zone, right?
Yeah, and maybe part of the reason they're not doing that is because they're cheating so much on defense, letting the guys go deep to create more offense that they can't get back in time. And so,
Right.
that's another flaw that you've got to figure out. It's nice to let your defensemen activate, but you can't let everybody activate all the time. Like we've talked about this. Like I understand they want more offense, but do it a different way.
Yeah, and I think that, the other part of that is then getting the forwards more engaged because if you're allowing the defensemen to be more active offensively, the forwards got to come back and help
Yeah,
out defensively
somebody
a
has
little
to.
bit more. And I think that would help, right? Instead of making it a purely offensive minded push, if the forwards are more engaged defensively, especially in the neutral zone, I think that will allow the defenseman to get back a lot quicker and be in the right spot to prevent the other team from getting set up.
Yeah, I'll say it like this. I mean, we know Cates does this.
Mhm.
Like Mitchkov has a hunger for the puck, right? So as a result, he will play defense in the sense that he's not going to try and hit anybody. He's going to try and get the puck and steal it and take it the other way, which is fine. And so that's
Mhm.
his hunger for the puck. I don't see enough hunger for the puck otherwise from a lot of other players. Couturier, sure, you always do it, but his speed just isn't there. But I don't see it from a lot of players. And so I think that's something that's an issue.
Yeah, I think so, and I think the other thing that they could do is to tighten up their lanes a little bit because the Flyers sometimes fall victim to the stretch pass and it's fun, and when it works, it's really cool, but I think that if they could just do quicker, shorter passing to clear the zone, that allows them to gain speed to get into the offensive zone better, as opposed to, like, hanging back and trying a stretch pass to get to the way opposite side of the neutral zone. Does that make
Which they're
sense?
hard to yeah, they're hard to that's it's more of a high risk situation that way too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, no question. I mean, I wanted to look up I see that Yeah. So Ryan Poehling now is the center on power play 2. Ryan Poehling last game was 54%, not bad. There was a guy who was 69% on faceoffs. That was Sean Couturier. He should be on power play 2. Like, it doesn't make sense. I get it. You want to cut his minutes? Cut it in other ways. But when you have the power play on there, you got to win a faceoff to be able to do something with the puck. You don't win the faceoff, you're not. And so, like, to me, 69 and 59 is a big difference.
Yeah, I think, that kind of relates to the defensive conversation, just in terms of having
Mhm.
him out there for key faceoffs,
Yeah.
in your defensive zone. It then secondarily helps your power play, by having him out there in those key situations. But I just think that that's, the defensive play is the thing that has, I think, been the weakest that we've talked about in the game so far. Again, small sample size, but let's see what we can do if we just tweak their defensive structure a little bit, like we're saying.
Yeah. Tweak the defensive structure, no doubt. Actually, I saw, look, I read that wrong. Paling was 54. Like, we know Couturier is a better faceoff guy. Put him in those key spots. Just play him less. If you're playing him, play him less at the end of a period. Play him, you'll figure out how to do it. But letting others fill in for him in those other key spots doesn't make the team better, in my estimation. And especially power play too. How much are they playing anyhow? Like, is it that big a deal?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the game, obviously, but I think they were playing him a little bit more in the second game, just because they had looked so good in the first game. But
Right.
at any rate, it's going to be a tough battle against the Edmonton Oilers. We are going to talk about them coming up next. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, forget having to have dozens of tabs open. You can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page, right where you place your bets. And there's so much more action besides the NFL as well. With the NHL season underway, there's a variety of options for hockey fans. FanDuel has daily specials like total home team goals for the day, highest scoring game, fastest goal scored, and so much more. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's fanduel.com. On tomorrow's show, of course, we'll break down this game we're about to preview against the Edmonton Oilers. Plus, it's mailbag day, so get those questions in. You can email us at lockdownflyers@gmail.com, send us a message on Twitter, or comment on our YouTube channel. Russ, before we dig into the Edmonton Oilers, you had a chance to go to the Wells Fargo Center and get a sense of the new food options and stuff there available for home games, like kind of ahead of the first Flyers home game this weekend. What were you able to see?
So yeah, it was food and merchandise. And I do have a special interview that'll be up on sportsology.com about the merchandise. Food wise, there was Korean barbecue chicken and potato waffles. That was my favorite of the dishes. Now there were some beef dishes. There's things like Rubens and stuff that I don't eat, right? Because I just don't eat red meat. But they look great. But this was just absolute tremendous. I mean, it was just so good on every level. Some people were like, chicken waffle. I'm like, listen, until you've had a potato waffle, don't talk to me. Like, you need to actually have it. They had an adobo chicken taco that was great. That was really good. They did have like a if you're just like, I don't know, would it be a lacto-ovo vegetarian where you could just have cheese and stuff? They had a taco that was kind of done like a caprese, not a taco, quesadilla like that. So that looked good. I didn't get to try that. Trying to think, was there anything else I ate? No, I mean, that was it for some of the food. I ate a little more. As far as the merch, I ended up getting like this really warm pullover, a black one. Uh, it's super warm, thick. I'll write about it. It definitely will keep me warm at practice or outdoor games or anything like that. So that was really good. They did, you know, Haley Simon was there and some other people were there, and it was maybe the first time in my life I've seen people at a because they have the one shop that has a lot of jerseys and they have some other merch, and then the other shop has some of the Sixers stuff, and then more Flyers, like casual wear, I would call it, for more everyday life. And so they had a Letterman sweater. I put a picture of that up online, varsity kind of Letterman sweater, which is interesting. They had like a vest. It was camouflage on the inside, so that was interesting. They had a Broad Street Bullies hat, which was awesome, which was like like a caricature of what a Broad Street Bully should look like. And I would say look out for this article. I've got something to talk about for that. And yeah, it was really like a great function. But what I was getting at, the other thing was I saw people matching up like hats with sweatshirts with other things like you would at a regular clothing place. 10 years ago, nobody was doing that at a team shop in a rink. You weren't looking at that much other casual wear that all of a sudden you're worried about what you could match up and such. But they had a great variety, and yeah, I'll write more about it. But it was good. It was good to see that, and yeah, there's no shortage of great food. I could tell you that, and the merch, they have to order it 6 months in advance. So they when they create it, they're creating it in advance. So right now the line that's out will be out for a while, and then in another month or two, they have to create the next line because it's a long hockey season. So, that stuff's probably already in the works.
Yeah, that's how fashion works, baby.
Yep.
All right. Looking at this matchup tonight against the Edmonton Oilers, they had some, I think, good tweaks this offseason. Made things exceedingly confusing for those of us with the last name Skinner, because they signed Jeff Skinner, who is not Stuart Skinner, their goaltender. So we got to differentiate between those in the conversation here. But they signed Victor Arvidsson. They re-signed Calvin Pickard. They bought out Jack Campbell, re-signed Connor Brown, re-signed Corey Perry, which I think is questionable, but it's not the biggest problem. But I think, they made some good tweaks, I think, in general, but are 0-3 so far. So I think it's been really interesting to see this beginning of the season for the Oilers, just because we've seen them have rough starts before and turn out okay.
Yeah, I just, a couple things. I could see why that season starter line didn't work out. I would never have Nugent Hopkins on the top left wing. It just doesn't make sense. You're taking him out of his game. You're missing Evander Kane. That's what that tells me, but there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
So now the other line versus the Flames was a little better but again, you still have RNH as a left wing, which I don't get.
So in that game against the Flames, they moved him to the second line with Draisaitl and Arvidsson.
Right. Again, honestly, RNH should play on the third line. Henrique should be the second line left wing. That's what I would do. He's used to
and
it.
Right now they have Henrique at center.
Right, which is not his best thing either. RNH is a great face-off guy, creates matchup problems, I think, on the third line. Or, you could go with moving up Janmark. You always could do that. He's like a Swiss Army knife. You could try him almost on any line and just see if there's chemistry. But yeah, I think their problems are stemming more from defense anyhow. Ekholm, Bouchard, Nurse, Dermott. Travis Dermott all of a sudden on the second pair. Brett Kulak, Troy Stetcher, right? It's just it's not great. It's not great.
It's not a great defense. And I think, the stats for that kind of show up in the goaltending to some degree.
Yeah.
So that's one issue that they're having. I think there's a bigger issue, but it's the defense kind of setting up goaltending to fail in a lot of ways. So you look at the 3 games and they've basically split the time, because against that, that first game where they got blown out by the Jets, they basically were 50-50 in the ice time. And then Pickard played against the Blackhawks. Skinner played against the Flames. Pickard had a rough game against the Blackhawks, 15 saves on 20 shots. Skinner played and made 25 saves on 28 shots against Calgary. So a little bit more action, but I think a tougher result in some ways, just because they were already 0-2 at that point, and so they're trying to get back into it. But I think that all of that points to some holes in the defense leading to goals against.
Yeah, I
Ultimately,
mean, you've got McDavid it's a -5, which is inconceivable already,
yeah. Well,
and he has no goals, and he's got 2 points in 3 games. I mean, that's how you know there's a problem.
yeah, and I think that's the biggest problem, and it's a fixable problem that is just gonna get better over time, and
Right.
that's their shooting percentage, right?
Yeah.
So, they're taking a ton of shots, and you look at the stats and it bears out, right? Because they look real solid in terms of expected goals for, they have the most scoring chances of any team having played 3 games so far. They're in the top 10 in terms of high danger chances for, second overall in scoring chances for percentage. All of those, so all of those numbers in 3 games, and I was only looking at teams that had played 3 games so far just because it's hard to compare in these early days, but, they're in, the top of the league on all of those numbers, but then you look at their shooting percentage, and it's like there's only 3 teams worse than the Flyers in shooting percentage in the NHL so far, and the Oilers are one of them. And that's it right there. That's the whole ball game, in my
Right.
opinion, for
No,
the
I think you're
Oilers right
right.
now.
I think you're right, and I don't think that'll last.
No,
But
because they have too much talent for it to not get better.
yeah, I agree. But again, in this game, whatever wherever they see Luchenko out there, I'm matching up Draisaitl against him.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I think
That's
that's
what I'm
what's gonna
doing.
happen. Yeah. And then I think that, that's why we talk about the defense having to improve, because this is a prime opportunity for the Oilers to fix the shooting
To get
percentage
on track.
problem.
Yeah.
Right? So Urson will be in net. I'm not worried about that. But the Flyers' defensive structure has to be so that this offense can't get set up. Because if they get
Yeah.
set up,
You have
it's a
to be
problem.
disruptive. I agree. Disruptive would be good. This is one where, yes, the PK is perfect, right? But it probably won't be perfect in this game. And the power play has to be better. Like it just has to be better. You're only gonna get X amount of scoring chances. I mean, maybe they'll get a few more because right now they're a little discombobulated, but for the most part, you can't if you get 8 and you're only scoring 1, you probably lost the game against these guys because chances are they tried to run up the score and maybe they did. We'll see. We'll see if they can keep the score down. That's gonna be the challenge, or if Edmonton's just tripping over themselves, then that's a whole other ball game. But I don't know if that's gonna happen.
Yeah, and I certainly hope that this is the game Owen Tippett gets going. I think this is a good opportunity for him
It is.
here, and especially back on a line with Frost and Mitchkov. I think that will help him, and I think you put all of that together, and I think the Flyers can win. We'll see. I think it's definitely a we'll see how it plays out
I
kind of
mean, it's
game.
definitely a winnable game, but it's one you
Yeah,
can't fall behind. If you fall
yep,
behind against these guys, like if you're 2 goals out, then it could get a little late because then they might play looser and start to feel it. If it stays close, you might be able to play them close. That's kind of like it's going to be a feel game, I think that way.
yep, absolutely. All right. Well, it is Tuesday, and every Tuesday on the show, we check in with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. They had their season opener. That was a very exciting game. We're going to talk about that and where things are with the AHL affiliate coming up next.
Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis, and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online and there's no need for uncomfortable doctor visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in a discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims could find you the ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's hims.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. Hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable combined products which are not approved by or verified for the safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on the product and subscription plan.
All right, checking in with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. Obviously, we know Emil Andre is up with the Flyers right now, but the Phantoms named their leadership group for this season. Garrett Wilson is, of course, the captain again. Louis Belpedio has the A, and then they're splitting the second A between Adam Ginning and Rhett Gardner, which I think is interesting and like a nice way to give both of them a little something.
I like it. No, that's good. Get more people involved with the leadership group. That's smart.
Yeah. And then obviously the other big news is that Samu Amala was healthy and back on the ice and played in the game on Saturday and played a crucial role in that game. So that's good. Cooper Marody is still scratched due to the injury, which is unfortunate, but the Phantoms did win their season opener 4-3 in a shootout. So similar to the Flyers, had a shootout win to start the season. I think, one of the interesting things about the lineup there is that much like they did toward the end of last season, they had J.R. Avon playing center with Elliot Denoyer on the wing, on the line. And it was working for them a little bit. And I think it's good that they're continuing that into this season.
Yeah, this is like the last chance for Denoyer. That's what it is. They're figuring out, okay, let's do Avon because Avon's a little more trustworthy. He is very speedy and can, play make. So yeah, I see it. It makes sense.
Yeah, so that is going to be something to keep an eye on. The other big thing is that Aleksei Kolosov played in net for their season opener. And this has been such a turn of events, going from where we were, 6-8 weeks ago to like, this guy is never going to play with the Flyers and he'll be in Russia, to he's playing opening game for the Lehigh Valley Phantoms and is positioning himself to be in a good spot for a call up here. I'm just so thrilled that this is where we're at right now.
Yeah.
We'll see if anything changes, but I thought he played really well. Shots in this game were 49-25 Phantoms.
Crazy.
Like absolutely crazy. Like the Phantoms were firing on all cylinders. Unfortunately, not enough of them went in that it didn't get to overtime and the shootout.
Just too many penalties, right? I mean, that's
Right.
the problem.
Right. That's exactly what it is. But both teams had 8 chances on the power play. Both teams were a mess. I think it was really interesting because they played Hartford. And of course, that is essentially like the bulk of them were the same team from the rookie series.
Right.
And I think that there was some bad blood left over from
Probably.
the rookie series that bled over into this game that made it super punchy. Like it was just a very exciting, very physical game that it did feel like there was a little bad blood between these two teams.
Yeah, I could see that. After a while, it's going to be hard to ignore Helgi Grans.
Yeah,
I
he had a
think
great game.
he had a great camp. He's carrying that over. It's not like the Flyers are super deep on D that they could ignore him all year. At some point, I mean, he has NHL experience. You got to give this guy another chance because he is a really good puck mover. And if his defense is better, who cares about his offense?
Yeah, I think as long as he plays solid defensively over the next couple of weeks, I think that'll kind of solidify him as maybe the next guy to get a call up after Andre, obviously depending on the needs at the time.
Right.
But he looked really good, especially quarterbacking the power play. I thought he had really good.
Yeah, he always could do that
there. So that was really good. I think, for me, Connor McDavid is just like, he's so raw and they just need to mold him and shape
He's a hot
him.
mess. That's what he is.
Yeah, he is a hot mess. I think his penalties are like uncalled for in a lot of cases, but hot damn, is he really fast. And I love watching him like get on a breakaway and you're like, this has no chance of going in, but I love watching it happen.
But it's fun.
Right?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So, and then besides that, again, Samu Amala, a goal and an assist in that game,
That's
4
good.
shots on goal. I think he looked real solid. I think there's a lot of adrenaline that goes with that, right? So, want to see it be a continued pattern and see him play consistently, but he's definitely off to a good start.
Yeah, he's got to carry it through the season. We saw it early on with him last year, so I'm expecting that we'd see it again. We got to see him around the 50, 55 game mark, what he looks like.
Yeah, I think so. The Phantoms have 2 games this upcoming weekend, Friday at Wilkes-Barre Scranton, which is always a delight, and then, the Pens come to the Phantoms on Saturday, so it's a back-to-back home and home weekend for the Phantoms and the Baby Pens, and, it's, like, if this, game against Hartford was anything, I think they're gonna be up for the challenge, and we'll see what the lineup is as the week progresses, but I'm very intrigued to see how this matchup goes, especially given how the Phantoms did not look great against them in the preseason.
Yeah, good start to the season. They probably missed Andre to a certain degree, but yeah, they won.
Mhm.
So that's good.
They did. All right, so we'll be back next Tuesday to discuss how those 2 games went. That'll do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. Tomorrow on the show, we're going to recap the Oilers game. We'll get into your mailbag questions and so much more. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So get us those questions on Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.